And welcome back to the SCL. Really, well, I'd have to say predictable match between Nor Academy and No Boundaries there. Nor Academy with less than a day to prepare, Guy FCing twice in a row, or excuse me, for the second time ever, I should say, and
Yeah,
they got
well,
stomped.
no boundaries went pretty deep and took them to Dunktown.
Ooh,
Oh,
I've been waiting to use that all day. One thing I think was interesting, we were discussing when they landed on the field that No Boundaries setup was very strong. It looked very good. There may have been some things that it had trouble with, but one of the things I think we initially missed when we first started watching, we I think assumed that those EOS were taking advantage of the new very strong medium rails, and when in fact they were blaster fit. And I think that was a very interesting choice, given the context, given the tournament. To me, why blasters over rails, Brent? What do you think?
Uh, I think they done goofed. Like, I think that they like missed an opportunity there. Like, you've already got a sentry drone, so if you put railguns on, you can pretty much completely operate from range. Like, there was a lot of little critiques that we could make about the piloting there too. Like, charging straight through a Balgorn and a Vindicator when you could, kind of go around. You don't have to go right through. But in the end, it didn't matter because uh, Nor Academy just didn't have the DPS to break through the EOS. But I think overall it's a solid comp. It could definitely use some tweaking though.
well, I'm not as hateful as you guys are. I'm not drinking the haterade. I actually still like blasters, even with railguns and their relative buff. Blasters are still awesome. Like they didn't get a nerf to their damage or anything like that. So if you combine the sentry drone DPS with blaster DPS on top of that, you can put out a surprising amount of punch off a sentry drone hull. And as for them charging in, yeah, normally perhaps against a Vindicator, not the smartest choice, but I think they were confident with their numbers advantage and the number of assault frigates they had that they could dive the high priority targets in Nor Academy's back line, get there successfully, and kill them before the Vindicator and the Balgorn were able to wear down the ship that got caught, which is pretty much exactly what happened.
Master Soul, that give us your thoughts.
The known boundaries team used their name to their full extent. They didn't have any boundaries. They weren't bounded by your rules of medium railguns. They did what
They're
they
not
wanted.
playing your game, okay?
Exactly. They make their own rules. They don't have any boundaries.
Thank you for that riveting insight. So we are now also joined by CCP Rise.
Hello.
Hello, CCP Rise, one of the probably one of the most important people to talk to on the Rubicon expansion, at least if you're really into PvP. He is part of the ship balancing effort. Now, he's not doing everything, but he is doing a fair number of things, which we're going to talk about. So, Rise, first some general questions. What are you excited about with the Rubicon expansion? What feature you're working on, and maybe pick a feature or two from another team that really has you excited as a former player.
All right. So, as just sort of as an employee, I guess I'm really excited about the main feature my team is doing, which is the certificate rework and the ISIS, the like ship tree thing. Um, I think that's a feature that is really, I don't know, could do a lot for Eve. Like not going to have a huge impact on my gameplay, but I think in general for the game it could be really, really good, and it kind of gets us headed in a direction of doing more of this kind of improvement where people actually can get information about how the game works without having to like watch YouTube videos. So, which is funny because I made them, but like I don't know, I have a lot of hope for that, and so and I was really skeptical about it. I think when I first showed up, like when I first got here 6 months ago or whatever, and the team was already working on the project, I was like, man, there's so many other things we could be working on. I really I'm not completely convinced this is the best thing for us to be doing, and now I feel really good about it. I think it's come together really nice, and so I'm kind of excited about it. As a player, I think definitely warp speed changes, maybe combined with interceptor changes, are the most exciting thing. I definitely think it is going to be really, really fun to to play Eve after warp acceleration is a thing, and especially in interceptors, which are just going to be bonkers.
Yeah, the warp acceleration, I'd have to say, is my longest standing pet peeve about just the way movement and all that sort of stuff works in Eve. It always never made it. Just like even when I was a noob, before I really understood concepts of balance and all that stuff, it just seems weird that battleships accelerate as fast as an interceptor when they don't do that on field when you're using a micro warp drive. Why would they do it when you're using your actual warp drive? So I was really happy that you guys fixed that.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's funny. I think it actually might make Eve a little harder for me in some situations, but it always felt really stupid that I could be in a Talos or whatever, a Drake, and actually just outrun fleets that had frigs in them because they warp as fast as me. So, the little bit of extra time it takes them to figure out where I went or what gate I went to is not made up by how much faster their ship is. And that just like it just seems weird. I agree with you. It's almost like immersion breaking for it to work that way. And not only is it nice to have that immersion piece fixed, but I think the sort of strategic implications of it are really cool as well. So, yeah, I'm definitely really pumped about that.
Yep, combined with the new portable cyanide jammers, I think it's going to bring back a sort of a golden era of small gang roaming PvP in Eve.
Let's hope.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But yeah, we touched on the certificate changes. When I was in the CSM, I was also not really terribly thrilled with that concept. But in recent weeks, especially working with Nor Academy now, I have more interaction with younger players than I ever really have, like maybe 2 years ago. So I've grown to appreciate how much guidance they really do need coming in, and the ability for custom certificates to be set by alliances and groups, I think is really potentially game changing, because it's gonna cut down a lot of the administrative overhead on groups like having to put their skill plans and all this stuff outside of Eve on forums and stuff that's not quite as accessible.
Yeah.
People that are alone, it cuts out on a lot of the guesswork, right? And people that don't have, a core of people that know what they're doing and can tell them exactly what they need to be training.
Now, I'm a little behind on the changes. Hold on, so let me butt in with a quick clarification on the custom certificates. I somehow missed the entire train on that one. So that means
No, that's not happening right now. He's kind of saying, like,
Oh, did I get
it would be good if that happened.
Oh,
or at least...
I'm sorry. That's happening on fleetup.com is going to use your certificate system to implement some kind of custom thing. Sorry.
Okay.
Wrong
Got me
dev
all
blog.
excited. I'm like, oh, hey, look,
Wrong dev blog.
I can be an
my bad.
elitist, even more elitist in terms of getting people kicked out of my lands for not being skilled well enough.
Still, if updating the certificate system allows third partiers to more easily do that kind of stuff, okay.
And it also lays groundwork for us to potentially move that kind of stuff into client. Like, the old certificate system was a mess, and it would have been hopeless, I think, for us to try and hand off any kind of customization of that system. But the new system is pretty nice and clean, and we're already talking about when and if we can give it over to corporations or alliances so that they can set up that stuff in client for their members, which of course would be really, really good compared to us trying to make catch-all certificates that people are supposed to use for, any kind of gameplay, regardless of, what corp they're in or whatever. So that would be really nice to do. But I also think that this step of just having the ones we've set up based on our own experience and also on a lot of community feedback, I think they actually do a lot more good than I originally thought. Like, there's an enormous amount of information we can give that puts people in the right direction when they're new and they don't have social groups to rely on to help them get good information. And I think for those players, this has an enormous amount of value.
Absolutely. And we talked about this on Declarations of War. Me, Aliras, the rest of the cast, we talked about, for instance, the difference in power spike between T1 and T2 weapons on certain hulls. How would players know that unless you had an intimate understanding of those weapon systems and those ships and Eve meta and all this other stuff? But if there's some kind of indication oh, this ship performs really well when you get Tech 2 ranged ammo that lets it hit out further. I'm thinking particularly the Zealot. The Zealot's power spike with Scorch is massive. but a player wouldn't necessarily understand that right away unless they had a much better understanding of hacks and armor hacks and range and
And we're
all that
even
stuff.
going like I think a step further with this ISIS thing where people might not have known the Zealot existed for quite some time into their, it might take a month or two before you become aware of sort of even the range of possible ships, let alone specifics about them. And now with this tree, it's so easy to just visually start to focus on areas that seem interesting to you and how they're connected to where you are now, and all of that. I think hopefully will make things a lot easier on new people, and also give interesting information to old people. We did some user testing internally with the tree, and it was very, very fun to watch people, because not only do we have a certificate system, but we have this mastery system which combines certificates on a particular ship. So you have the Zealot, and you have all the levels of a whole bunch of different certificates that are relevant to the Zealot, and through that you can get a sense of how good you are at flying it. And people would have a ship that they'd flown a lot and thought they were really good at, and then it'd show them they were only at Mastery 2 instead of Mastery 4, and they'd go discover there was a chunk of skills the Zealot really wants that they had never trained. And like, I think people are going to have fun sort of cleaning up their skills and discovering things they're good at that they didn't know they were good at. And I don't know, I hope it works out really well and people use it a lot. I think that will happen, but it's going to be fun to put it out there and see.
And like one closing comment, also throw in that I've seen some of the design work in the ship. It looks very Eve-like, it fits, I think, in the in the universe.
That's good. That's extremely good to hear, because oh man, was there a lot of discussion about how to make it fit into the universe. I think it is. I don't know. There was so much thought put into the aesthetics. Like, we went through so many versions of it and so many backgrounds and so much discussion about kind of how to brand it. And I don't know, there's been a lot of work put into all that. So that's good to hear.
Official Alexiv card thumbs up. All right, let's talk about this upcoming match here. Brent, why don't you, I've been talking a lot. Give us a little introduction on these teams and the bands.
Well, we have Exceptional Otters versus something else. I'd have to look up their bands real
Executive
quick.
Otters band Geddon Ishtar, something else band Vargar Golem.
Thank you. Vargar and Golem will probably be the most prevalent Marauders we see here, so those are solid bands. Excuse me. I'm pretty excited to see this match with what Exceptional Otters has brought and where they warped in. It's pretty funny, but as far as predictions are concerned, I'm going to go with something else on this one.
Yeah, I don't even know. I frankly, using what we're looking at in the role they're going to be used in, I don't want to give too much away until we see it. I have no idea how they're going to perform. I think this is what Steve's dream for these was here, but I don't know. Gosh, yeah, I'll go with Executive Otters. Why not? I'm
going to continue my streak of being wrong, and I'm going to go with Executive Otters. I like what I'm seeing here. I want this to win.
I don't know either team, but the team captain for something else is called Speedy Gonzalez, so I'm just gonna put it all on him.
All right. Logibro and then Rise.
You see, usually I just go with whichever has the cooler name, but both sides, I'm going to go with the Otters, like Executive Otters. They sound very professional.
I think I will do the same. I have no good reason, but I'm excited to watch a match, actually. I don't know how many you've had today already, but it sounds fun.
Well, you chose the team that decided to take Vagabonds to 0, so
Booyah!
Like I said, this is your this is your setup here. So,
all right. Cool. With that, guys, we are going to kick it over to the commentary box for this next match of Executive Otters versus something else.
Arriba!